Hello, welcome to Thursday night's late night edition of Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Cott. I'm delighted as ever to be joined by the one and only Keith Jackson. Keith, how goes it?
Evening, Daniel. Listen, decent night for Scotland's teams tonight for both Celtic and Rangers.
Very decent.
Listen, I think all things considered this season, I can't remember the last time we've come on a Thursday night and been relatively satisfied with the standard of the performances. So, yeah, good for both clubs.
We're also joined live from Ibrox by Scott McDermott. Scott, you look really warm.
I wouldn't say that. I've got my heated gilet on, but my legs are freezing here.
It wasn't a classic, Scott, but as we were saying before we come on here, you said it just keeps the ball rolling for Rangers.
It does, the Danny Roll kind of bandwagon keeps on going. 7 wins on the spin now for Rangers. It just keeps the momentum building. Daniel, I think we spoke about that the other night. We just have to keep that going, especially with a big league game on Sunday against Dundee. We know Hearts and Celtic are obviously playing, so something's got to give. So it's just a case of Rangers keeping that going. And look, Danny Roll, he's not won a game in Europe yet, so he'll be pleased to get that, to sort that record out. He gets his first win in Europe. Were they scintillating? No. Was it a brilliant game? No. Conditions were difficult. Rangers had to kind of grind it out. But as we touched on just before we came on, I thought it was a fairly structured, organised performance. Rangers never really looked like conceding. Jack Burton did one big, really good save in the first half. Very good. But Rangers should have killed the game off in the second half. Gassama had a good chance. Majowski hesitates in the box. Their keepers had a couple of good saves as well. So I think Danny Roll will be really pleased. He only had a squad of 15 fit players tonight in the UEFA squad. We know the three new signings have been kind of kept back, and hopefully the fans will see a couple of them at least on Sunday. So given what he had to work with, given the circumstances, I think he'll be really pleased with that victory.
Scott, I know it was a kind of low-key night, right, and there was nothing really much on the game, certainly in terms of this season for Rangers. I was actually quite impressed by them. And I know, as you said, it wasn't a thriller. But I'm watching that side now, and do you know what I was impressed? I think they were controlled. I think they were composed. And I think the most important, they were cohesive in terms of when they didn't have the ball. I think they're starting to look a far more difficult side to play against than they were previously. And I think a lot of credit to that has to go to the manager. Rangers, to me, are fast improving. And Diomande and Raskin in the middle of the pitch look like they're really coming onto a game. I think there was quite a lot, although it was so low-key tonight, I think there was a lot for Rangers to be really pleased about.
I agree. I thought Raskin was excellent. I'd probably gave him man of the match. I thought the two centre-backs, as much as Rangers gave up a couple of chances in the game, I thought the two centre-backs have been fairly inexperienced. Fernandes and Giga, at the start of the season, people were saying they were bomb scares and they had mistakes in them. I thought the two of them were relatively solid tonight.
I think they still get mistakes in them, Scotty.
They probably have. But I thought the night they were okay. And he's obviously put Aarons in again tonight. He's left Tavernier in reserve for the weekend as well. And as much as Aarons, I think, still lacks confidence, he came up with a terrific block in the box in the second half. It denied a certain equaliser. Yeah. So, look, as we're saying, it's not a perfect performance, but we've been saying that for a while about Rangers. The point is they're grinding out results. They should have scored more tonight. We know that's an issue for them. They should be scoring more goals. They have to score more goals if they're going to go and try and win this title. But as I say, 7 wins in the trot, confidence building, momentum building. I think Danny Roll will be relatively pleased, especially with a couple of new boys to come in at the weekend.
I know you've got, I know you've got post-match duty, Scott, that you need to get on with. Just before we let you go, Rangers obviously can't progress in the Europa League. It's been a competition that's so special to Rangers over the last, 3 or 4 seasons. Is there a feeling that that's kind of disappointment at that, or is it just all focused on this league title challenge?
No, I think there has to be disappointment. Daniel, you think your Rangers kind of recent history in this competition, getting to the final in 2022, even last season they were in the quarter-final. So I think when you look at the campaign overall, it's been a massive disappointment for them. To think this is their first win in the group stage, Danny Rowe's first win as manager. No, he'll know that's no good enough. That's no where Rangers want to be. Obviously, they still to go to Porto next week, which will be a really tough game. Yeah. And who knows, they might need to get something for that, for the old coefficient points that we've discussed the last couple of nights, in terms of if they win the league, potential pathway into the Champions League. So there might still be something to play for, but no, I think you're right. That'll be one of Danny Rowe's aims, to get Rangers back to where they were in terms of Europa League a few seasons ago. But as I touched on yesterday after his press conference, the good thing about him is he realises the league is the number one priority. And as I say, I think that's what's probably been wrong for a few years here. But he knows, forget Europe, but that has to be in the back burner until Rangers are the best team in Scotland and champions of Scotland. I think that's what he'll go all out for this season.
Scotty, one more before you go. Curtis come off the bench tonight, looked really good again. Are Rangers kind of stalling on this loan deal with Kilmarnock? And do you think they should keep him? Because every time I see the boy, I think he makes an impact.
I need to stick to my guns, Jack. I think I said last night I thought it would be a good move for him to go out. I don't think he'll get the required minutes between now and the end of the season at Rangers. But you're right, it's a tricky one for them because he normally does have an impact. I said the other night about the boy, he always seems to have an influence and an impact on games and big moments in games. And as you say, he came on the night and a real impact for the right wing. One way he cut inside and curled one, it looked destined for the top corner until the keeper saved it. I get the feeling they've maybe delayed the potential loan move, maybe because of tonight, because he was in the kind of UEFA squad and they were maybe a bit short. I would still expect him to go out and loan, especially when you think of guys like Skov Olsen coming in that area of the pitch. So you're right, it is a tricky one, and I do think he could have a future. He is still very young. So ultimately, I think the loan move will be good for him. We said last night, if he goes out, if it's Kilmarnock and he goes out and gets game time, minutes under his belt, I think he'd come back a better player in the summer.
I tell you what, second best player to come out of Balfron High School in the last 40 years.
Aye, I'll crack your jokes.
Scott, on that note, thanks so much for joining us on the Hotline Live. We'll let you get down to the mix zone.
No worries.
I'm sure I'll be pestering you soon.
Yep. Cheers, Daniel. Cheers, Jacko.
Cheers, Scotty.
Scott there live from Ibrox. Keith, I didn't get to see a lot of the Rangers game hands up because I was working for Record Sport on the Celtic game. But I guess a good night for Rangers. Couldn't really ask for much more.
Well, they desperately needed to get, a win, just even for professional pride reasons, for reasons. I think they must have been fairly embarrassed by the fact that they're looking at that league table with 1 point from, 18? So that helps. As Scott said, I think it's important in terms of momentum. He's gone with a strong team tonight, which shows that they wanted to register the 3 points. They got the 3 points. I thought they were comfortable in the game, really comfortable in the game. What I found interesting from the start was that Mikey Moore was switched out to the right wing and Gassama played in the left. I think that's an indicator. Because they've obviously switched it. That tells me that Skov Olsen will come in and play in the left wing. And Mikey Moore will stay in the team on the right-hand side, probably at the weekend. I think he probably just wanted to get a look at Mikey Moore on the right-hand side. He had a decent game tonight, not a great game. But, Daniel, see, to be fair to Rangers, if they just tidied up in the last third tonight, they could have helped themselves. That could have been 3-4, whatever you want tonight. They are starting to look, and this is what I'm talking about when I say I'm quite impressed by them. I think they went through a period where Danny Rowe came in and had to steady the ship, had to make them defensively difficult to break down, solve all the problems that were so obvious under Russell Martin, and he did that. I see a team that's starting to build in confidence. I felt there was a period there where they didn't look like scoring goals, where they didn't look as if they had any sort of creative edge. And once again tonight, by the way, it's Set Piece FC. They've scored one from a short corner, which is straight off the training ground, albeit I don't think they designed it, that Chermiti had to keep the ball alive and Asgard then plays a lovely cushion pass for the goal to come about. So it wasn't straight off the training ground. But the point being, I think they're starting to look like a team that will carry a bigger threat in the final third. They're starting to gel a little bit. They're starting to come on. And now with Skov Olsen to add into the mix, and possibly one more in the attacking third before this window shuts, they're looking not bad, Daniel. They're looking not bad.
Well, I mean, we've got plenty of comments coming in on Celtic's drawn Bologna, and believe me, we will come on to that. And I know, Keith, you caught up with Michael Gannon over in Italy, so we'll come to that. Just one last thing in Rangers, though, Keith. AFS says it wasn't great. Some baffling decisions by Murmiowski and presented with golden opportunities, but that's 7 wins in the bounce across 3 competitions, 5 clean sheets in that stretch. I bring that up, Keith, because Bojan Miovski, like, why has it not happened for him at Rangers? He was the one that I thought was an absolute cert. And again, he's been okay. You know, he scored the hat-trick in the Cup the other day. But he just doesn't look like the same player that was at Aberdeen.
It's a different style of football. I mean, that Aberdeen, a lot of the goals that he would score for Aberdeen was like counter-attacking stuff. And
that's true.
Rangers have got more of the ball, obviously, domestically. I mean, some of these stuff tonight, I think he thought he'd Messi in the back of his shirt rather than Miovski. Back heels for no reason. I think he's struggled. I think he's one of these players that looks to be struggling with the weight of the jersey. He's also a striker, and what you would say about strikers is they can be streaky. They can be really, the game can be based around confidence. If they can get a run of goals, it helps. But, you know, he looks like what he should be, I guess, in the pecking order, which is a guy that can fill in when Chermiti's not available. Chermiti tonight, there's another conundrum. Yeah. Did a lot of good things. His work rate is impressive. His hold-up play is impressive. His link play is impressive. But he still doesn't look like a goal scorer. And I think if you could roll the two of them, Miovski is a more natural goal scorer. Chermiti's all-round play, he's coming on. He's certainly looking better. Rangers are far from the final polished article. But they might just be good enough this season, Dan. And the additions that will come in for this second part of the season, I think will improve them.
Aye.
I'm fairly sure they will.
Before we move on to Celtic, Cribb says we let Russell Martin sell the best 2 strikers in the league. Now we need a striker, you couldn't make it up. Traitors says we need a striker 100%. And Scott says, I agree. He does a lot, Chermiti, except score. Is it pretty much a fait accompli that Rangers will sign a striker, you think, before the deadline?
I think it's highly likely. Now, whether or not, I think to get a number 9 in, I know Chermiti's wearing the number 9, but an actual out-and-out striker probably depends on what happens with Danilo, if they can get him off the books. But either way, I do think they'll be looking to add in that final third, whether it's creativity, a number 10, a number 9, a wide player. I think that's where Rangers are still a little bit short. Even though they've added a lot of players in these areas, I think they're still short in quality. Nice. So if they can get themselves a goal scorer or a goal creator, they'll again have improved and upgraded in areas of the team that was clearly evident before they went into the January window. So no, I think Rangers have got a lot to feel good about right now, a lot to feel positive about, and not least the fact 7 straight wins, 5 clean sheets, and now they can look forward to the weekend and see how the cards fall at Tynecastle and who drops what, because somebody's going to drop something.
Right, Traitors says Danilo is Brazilian. No, he's from Postle Park. So there you go. I know, Keith, you caught up with Michael Gannon a little bit earlier in Italy, following Celtic's 2-2 draw with Bologna.
Yeah.
Let's have a listen to what he said.
Sure. Michael, thanks for joining us. Listen, you and I have been around the block often enough with Celtic in Europe to know by now to expect the unexpected on away days. But even by Celtic standards, that was a bit batshit tonight. I thought, what an incredibly crazy game of football.
Aye, Jack. There's a reason I look at this. I'm only 22. Covering Scottish teams in Europe puts years on, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think when the dust settles, it'll turn out it's a really, really good point for Celtic. Excellent point. It's put them in a really good position to go and get a result next week against Utrecht and get to the knockout stages. How they got there was a bit funky, wasn't it? Listen, I think there's a lot to admire about Celtic performance tonight. I know they could have let a 2-goal lead slip under immense pressure in that second half with 10 men, which I guess we'll get to in a wee second. But I thought that it was pretty. Some of the defending was pretty heroic at times. They were throwing their body in the line, they were making blocks. Even the first half, even with 11 men, they were under that pressure, and I thought they were taking it. They were rolling the punches. It was a really marked difference under Martin O'Neill than it was under Wilfred Noss. I don't want to keep making these comparisons, right? But you can't help avoid it. It's like the resilience, the kind of determination, the will to put their bodies in the line under Martin O'Neill is so evident. I mean,
they're scrapping for each other, Mick. It was so obvious tonight. And
honestly,
Scales get their heads and feet and absolutely everything. They were tremendous.
They two, I thought, were outstanding. I thought Trusty, arguably his best performance for Celtic. I think Atalanta last year was up there. Tonight, I think he was outstanding, real determined. And then obviously they go down to 10 men and the whole game kind of changed a bit. I mean, Celtic could have been 2 or 3 up, by the way, early on. I mean, a couple of good chances after the goal's a bit of a gift.
I mean, the goal's incredible. I mean, this is where a mad night starts with the first goal, wasn't it? I mean, I don't know what the keeper's doing, but I mean, that was just beautiful from a Celtic perspective.
I got a message from one of my pals back home that said, Bologna have done a Celtic. It's not what they usually do. A bit of a gift, wasn't it? But then Celtic nearly capitalised and got a couple after that. I mean, a couple of good chances straight away. And the Yang one straight after that and Scales the one. So coming 2 up in the first 10 minutes. Bologna is expected to come back. I thought Bologna looked a bit dodgy at the back, to be fair.
Yeah.
But they had a bit of pressure. And then you get the red card. I mean, Martin O'Neill is kind of doing his thing on the touchline and you get yourself booked and all that stuff. And even after the game, he's saying he thinks it was a bit harsh and they got a raw deal. I think it's a red card. I don't understand why there'd be any kind of complaint. I thought it was absolute stupidity. It was two of the most stupid yellow cards I've ever seen in your life. I
totally agree. But what I would say to you is, Mike, seeing first viewing, I couldn't believe it. It looked so obviously. It was Miranda, wasn't it? Kind of puts an arm across Hatate, and Hatate responds petulantly. He flings his arm forward, almost like he clocks him at the back of the head, and then Miranda goes down holding his leg.
I think he clips him as well. He
does. I didn't see that till half time. It was only in a replay that you see he actually flicks a boot out as well. Yeah,
I didn't see that until after the game. I thought I seen him even kind of slapping out. You're on a yellow card. It was only 3 minutes earlier to get booked for a kind of similar kind of tangle. I think it was Lewis Ferguson. Yeah. And you think you're on a booking and you're giving. I mean, you're asking for trouble. And I thought it was needless. I thought it was kind of brainless. I thought it put his team right up against it.
Yeah.
It changed the complete flow of the game. Celtic couldn't get an out ball. They had to go and defend it. And you always felt that the pressure was going to tell eventually. Because they were under. I mean, in the second half, they were getting bombarded, weren't they?
It was a defence for attack training session the entire second half.
It wasn't. Celtic couldn't get an out ball because obviously Dyson made us tucked in a bit as well. Obviously, they'd taken off Tonetki and put on Negrin there. It just could not get out. There's no out ball at all until the last kind of 10 minutes. Actually, the last 10 minutes, they did a bit of more out ball when Johnny Kenny appeared and could actually have pinched it again at the end. But I thought even losing the goal, I thought the goals, they were disappointed with the goals they lost. Question marks. I don't know what you thought on TV. I thought second goal particular, Kasper Schmeichel. Not sure what's happening there.
I'm not sure, but I tell you what, Mick, you mentioned the word heroic earlier. I mean, whatever Austin Trusty and Scales didn't get to in the penalty box, Schmeichel was behind him. He made, I lost count the amount of saves he made. So I think maybe he's unsighted because I think that shot comes through a cluster of bodies. He looked a bit flat-footed, though. I agree with that.
Aye, I thought a couple of good saves. I thought maybe the first goal as well. I thought maybe could have got that out. Maybe the cross.
He goes in off his thigh. I think he's unlucky.
I think by that point it's point blank. He's going to be struggling at that point. Kind of shuffling across, isn't he? I just thought the second goal. I mean, the view we had on it. Yeah, there was traffic, but it was quite central, and I thought he looked a wee bit slow to move for it. I don't know. Maybe I'm being ultra harsh, but I thought that maybe could have done a bit better. Well, I asked Martin Neal about that as well, and he kind of, I think he was unreally sure. I didn't see that many times. He thought maybe onside. He thought might have a nick, but I don't think it did get a nick. I think it came right through.
I think it did.
Just didn't quite react in time. But like you said, it's some big saves in there as well. So it would be a bit harsh to kind of criticise him, wouldn't it? But I think, in the most part, it was a pretty good rearguard performance by Celtic. And I think the goals were disappointing.
Well, do you know what, Mike? I mean, see at the end, and because, as I said at the start of this, we've done it so many times. You are actually looking in the 5 minutes of extra time or injury time at the end. You're thinking the typical Celtic story is here. They're going to concede. It's going to be a heroic effort, but they're going to concede in those dying seconds. And again, I think it was the 95th minute, the last touch of the ball, and it summed up the match for me. It was a trusty headed clearance out the penalty box.
Aye. Actually, you know, it's like these nights, Keith. You're writing up your stuff. I actually had the intro about Turin 2001 in my head about them, the extraordinary rant from Martin O'Neill. But if they lose here in the final minutes, 3-2 again in Italy, this would be another extraordinary rant afterwards.
Well, how was he after the game? That was I did want to ask. What was his general demeanour?
I think he still felt like they got a bit of a raw deal from the referee. I think there was an instant in the first half when Dyson Mader's kind of climbing through and the boy kind of bundles into the back of him. And Mader, being Dyson Mader, gets back up again and tries to get back in. You think if Hugo stays down, the referee's got a decision to make in terms of a red card. I think Martin thought that was a red. I think he thought that the Hatate one was harsh on him. But apart from that, he was absolutely delighted with the kind of resilience, the spirit, the determination, all the things we're talking about here. I think he was, utterly delighted with it. The only thing was that, and I mentioned to him as well, I don't want to take the jam out his donut. I did say that probably getting a point was probably, they had to get a point here, because if they'd put in all that effort and not won the game, or lost the game,
it would have been a killer.
And then you've got Hearts on Sunday, having used, a grueling 95 minutes with 10 men for an hour. You think it would have came at a hell of a cost. But by getting the point, it gives them a wee bit of a kind of morale boost, doesn't it? They can take into Sunday, but I still think it'll have severely hampered them for the weekend. That's the last thing you want to do 10 men in a game like that.
I tell you, Hatate better have apologised to his teammates at half time and again at full time, because he didn't half drop them in it. And then you kind of project forward to Tynecastle, early kick-off on Sunday. There's not a lot of resting time here. And I was looking at guys, Maeda, right at the death, he's making 50, 60 yard sprints, full steam sprints, forward, backward, covering everything. These guys empty their tank there tonight, and they're going to have to recover really quickly.
That's the thing. I think it comes at a cost. It's a big point. It keeps them in the hunt for Europe, but it'll take its toll, and they're going to have to go again Sunday. And Martin Neal now, he's using the same kind of 14, 15 players now that he trusts. He'll obviously have his new signing on board, which you'd imagine he'll go straight into the team now.
You think he'll start?
I think he will. Listen, Neil's trying to play down a wee bit. He's trying to take a bit of pressure off him. So he's not going to save the season. He's not going to be a miracle worker and all that stuff. He's a good player, but give the guy a chance. But the reality is, this guy's got to come in and score 10 goals in the next 15 games.
Yeah,
that's your Celtic striker. If Celtic are going to pull this out the fire and win the league, he needs to score 10 goals in 15 games. Simple as that.
Yeah.
It's something so it's all right saying no pressure, big man, but no pressure, but going to give us 10 goals in 15 games. That's the reality.
And there's no sign of anybody else coming in, no more reinforcements ahead of the weekend.
No, I think there was a couple that they thought were getting closer, but I think they're fading now going into the weekend. So I don't think there'll be anyone else on board. I think a couple of wide men kind of lined up, or thought he was down the road with, but I think they're now starting to fade. So no, I don't think there'll be any other fresh faces in before Sunday. So by next week, but they'll need to ramp it up next week. So I still think they're probably 2 or 3 at least short.
All right. Okay, Mike. Well, listen, you get rested up for the weekend. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you soon on Hotline Live.
Yeah, straight to my bed. I've got an early flight in the morning, so retiring straight to my quarters for this evening. A 7 o'clock flight.
Don't kid a kidder, Mike. Don't kid a kidder.
Keith, in the comments, Mikey says, thought the Celtic back four were brilliant. Future looks bright, young Donovan, and Scales again, proving his doubters wrong. Craig says, Rio gave up 5 minutes before the red, walking about shrugging his shoulders. Timmy says, Martin O'Neill, 12 out of 13 wins, the man to win 56 and the Europa League. Stephen Ray says, that Rangers win guarantees Celtic to go through with a win against Utrecht. Cheers, lads. We'll return the favour on Sunday when we pump hearts. Thomas says, delighted we'd have taken a draw. And John simply says, that's me book my flights for the final in Istanbul. Wonder who will play. I thought, Keith, it was a really gutsy, determined display from Celtic, and one that you mentioned to Mick there that's almost unfamiliar. I was convinced they were going to concede like the third goal.
Look, do you know what? It's exactly what you expect from a Martin O'Neill Celtic side. Guys that are going out there, they're walking through or running through brick walls for one another. I think Hatate, I'd be angry from a Celtic perspective about him. He needs to buy into what everybody else is buying into. You can't be selfish in a Martin O'Neill side. You've got to have, everybody's got to have that same 100% level of commitment. Hatate, to me, having given away, and it was a stupid foul on Lewis Ferguson, and it was a clear booking, having done that just 3 minutes earlier, to then get himself sent off like that, I thought... I don't get Martin O'Neill's... For me, it was just two clear yellow cards. Well, as I said to Mick, on my first viewing, I wasn't sure. I couldn't believe it. I thought Miranda, and by the way, I remember watching Miranda previously. It used to be a television show, and I didn't enjoy that much either. So I watched that, and I thought, no, I can't believe that. But I was watching the hand when I should have been watching the foot. And Hatate, it was petulant. The hand was petulant enough. It risked the booking for it to flick out with the foot as well. And he did catch him, and it was naughty, and it's a yellow card all day long. What I would say about Martin O'Neill might be looking at it. Yeah. He's looking at it from 10 yards away. He might see what I was seeing on the TV. It wasn't until half-time when I actually saw it on a replay that I realised how silly it was, how stupid it was, how selfish it was. And I think he owes everybody a big performance at Tynecastle this weekend, that's for sure, because he didn't have dropped the minute.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple more comments, Keith, as time's getting away from us. This one from Patrick says, Celtic are still on for a treble. Who'd have believed that after what Nancy done with the team? So low in confidence, but the old master is a great psychologist.
Well, Nancy effectively punched a hole in Celtic's season, didn't he?
What was it you said? He took a wrecking ball to it.
Yeah. I mean, I know it didn't last long, and I give the Celtic board, who, you know, I'm quick to criticise, everybody's quick to criticise these days, but I do give them their due for not delaying the inevitable with Nancy. It was the right thing to do, was to get rid of him quickly in order to try and salvage this season. They've gone back to a guy who had salvaged it first time round, who now has to salvage it again. And I feel for him a little bit. You know, he's 73-year-old, Dan. You know, I don't care who you are. These are late nights. It's difficult. Long travelling to get back to Glasgow now, middle of the night.
When I saw him, Keith, jumping about in the touchline, I sort of thought, like, 73. I mean, he must be a wee bit of him thinking, what am I doing here?
Oh, there will be, but I think he's loving it.
He's loving it.
And you wait to see what that's my worry for Celtic, is that I think Derek McInnes would have been sitting at home tonight with his feet up, watching that, loving every second from the minute that Hatate got himself sent off, because what a strain that put on them physically, emotionally, the whole thing. And I think Mick's right. Had Bologna nicked one at the end there to win that game, I mean, that takes another big suck of energy out of you. So Celtic, I think they can be really pleased. That's a really great point. I think if anybody, no matter how you get there, the journey wasn't as anybody would have expected, but to get there in the end and take a point away from home in Italy, yeah, take that all day long. And it does set up the game against Utrecht. But first and foremost, all eyes on Tynecastle, because let's get honest. You know, I know some guys are getting a wee bit excited there. Celtic ain't winning this European competition. They're going to be nowhere near that. Really, the whole season is going to be settled domestically. That's where all the focus goes. Rangers, in a way, might be quite pleased just to get short of this campaign. Celtic, they're not going to not want to get through, but I think it is becoming a bit of a distraction, or is in danger. It could become a distraction because all the energy, all the focus, all the determination and drive has to go into what's happened domestically. And Celtic have got a very short recovery period now before a lunchtime kick-off against the pace setters at the weekend. So, as I said to you, Derek McInnes will be a happy guy tonight. That couldn't have gone much better for him.
Green Machine says, Keith, well, I'm 73 and I'm sitting up talking to you nutters. So thanks for that, Green Machine. Before we wrap up, Keith, you can see the Europa League table there. You can see.
By the way, that's impressive. He knows how to work YouTube and all that.
That's good. You can see Celtic now have crept into the playoff places ahead of Ludogorets after their defeat at Ibrox. And a win against Utrecht next week will guarantee a playoff. A, Keith, do you think they'll do it? And B, since we won't have a hotline live until after the game on Sunday, what's your prediction?
Whoa. Two nice softball questions there, isn't it?
Right, don't mess about.
Do I think, right, first of all, let's deal with Utrecht. Do I think Celtic will do it? Yes. I think that at home, big night, as long as the crowd are properly engaged, I'm pretty sure they will be. I know there's still this ongoing issue that needs resolved. But I think if you'd said to Celtic at the start of this campaign, it all comes down to a home game against Utrecht to get into the knockouts. I think Celtic were a sign for that. And I think Martin O'Neill, the team spirit that he's fostered, you saw that in the performance again tonight. Yeah, I'm going to back Celtic for that one. This weekend, Dan, it's so difficult to call.
It's tough.
I think that Hearts are a real disadvantage because obviously, you know, I've said so many times this season what I think of Cammy Devlin. And I'm not sure that Hearts have got a ready-made replacement for him. And Lon Shanklin's the same. That's going to be difficult, a difficult obstacle for them to overcome. But they are at home. You know, there is something special brewing at Tynecastle this season. I think it's going to be a really hot 90 minutes for Celtic. If Celtic can avoid defeat in that game, I think that's a good result. I think that's a good result. I wonder if both sides actually might settle for a 1-1.
Yeah. For what it's worth, I just think that the Hearts injuries and suspensions, I think it's tipped it just in Celtic's favour. But who knows? Who knows?
Well, what you can't do is underestimate McInnes.
Of course.
A really, really clever, astute manager. He'll have it worked out. He's been making all the right noises this week, not feeling sorry for ourselves, not sucking our thumb, full of excuses. He said Hearts will be ready. I believe him. I do think that because, you know, these guys are so important. Bringby's missing as well. So he's got big holes to fill on that side, but he's got decent players. He's got good quality. Jamestown's made sure of that. I think Hearts will really put it up to Celtic at the weekend. I think it's going to be a great watch. Can't wait for it.
I think it's going to be an absolute cracker. And one thing is for sure, we will be here to pour over it all at 6 p.m. on Sunday. But for now, I think that brings us to the end of our late night edition of the Hotline Live. Thank you so much for all the comments and staying up late with us. Massively appreciated. Keith, it's always a pleasure. And
you, Daniel.
So
Sunday night, 6 p.m. next date.
Sunday night, 6 p.m. I'll see you there.
I'll see you there.
Thanks.